My life is literally on the line here. I could lose my company. I could lose the ability to stay in the US. I could lose so many relationships.
Immigration law sits at the intersection of opportunity, identity, and risk. And today's guest has built his career navigating that space at the highest level, founder and managing partner of a San Diego-based immigration law firm.
Thanks for having me, Dez. Appreciate it. That's exciting. Yeah, it's kind of interesting to be on the other side. I wanted to live abroad. Coming to the United States was another way to expand my education. 5 years in, I felt I was in a place where I could tackle almost any question or any client that will come to me. I remember working really long hours and creative ways and reaching out to people and spending hours on the phone convincing people.
Now, for founders and entrepreneurs, what is the one piece of advice today? Immigration law sits at the intersection of opportunity, identity, and risk. And today's guest has built his career navigating that space at the highest level. Jacob Sapochnick is the founder and managing partner of a San Diego-based immigration law firm that works with individuals, entrepreneurs, and companies worldwide, combining international legal training with a focus on education and clarity in a complex system. This conversation will go beyond surface level to explore the decisions, the turning points, and lessons behind building a mission-driven practice inside of one of the most complex areas of law. I am excited to welcome Jacob Sapochnick to the show. Welcome, Jacob.
Thanks for having me, Dez. Appreciate it.
Of course. Jacob, you have a podcast of your own called Visa to Venture, highlighting founders who have brought their lives and businesses over to the United States. And today you get to share your journey now.
That's exciting. Yeah, it's kind of interesting to be on the other side.
Right, I would imagine so. You serve people worldwide whose futures really hinge on complex legal decisions. What's a moment early on in your practice that made you feel confident that you were exactly where you needed to be?
I think the journey of starting any business obviously has different phases, the early stages, but I think especially in the legal space, because we're giving advice to clients and they rely on us. I feel like for me, I would say probably like 3 or 4 years into the practice, I felt that because I was learning so much, because I wanted to be able to be a good resource. So in the beginning, like I would say the first 5 to 7 years, you spend your time obtaining information, learning, and so you can kind of pass it back to the client. So I would say like 5 years in, I felt I was in a place where I could tackle almost any question or any client that will come to me, feeling pretty secure about that. I'll give him good advice, I would say.
Okay, nice. So about 5 years in or so. And your
Yeah.
history, to go a little bit backwards, highlights law school in the UK and then a master's in the United States. So what drew you to immigration law specifically out of all legal specialties?
So as you said, I when I went to law school in the UK, the reason I went to the UK is because I wanted to live abroad, and the UK was probably one of the easiest, the closest options because Australia would be far, and Canada at the time would be so it's a way to live abroad as a student, just like a lot of students come to the US, and I chose law school at the time because it was another way to put myself in an environment where I can use my language skills, and maybe it's something that I could use. I figured, I wasn't good at math, so all the engineering and science, is not gonna work. So, and after the UK, coming to the United States was another way to expand my education, but also find a different country. So that's the reason why I did that.
I see. Okay, to expand your horizons, to get a new experience, and also leverage the knowledge that you had with your education in the UK. And with that, I feel like many people become lawyers because of a defining experience. And what would you say is yours, and how did it influence how you practice law?
So I think for me, as I mentioned, I chose to study law almost because like my process of elimination, it was like my dream. I really couldn't be like an engineer or doctor, which my family, they had, this aspirations. And so lawyer was kind of like the last resort, thinking that, you don't need too much math in there. You can use your analytical logic. And so for me, it was of a way to get into the education system. But once I was in law school, I did a few internships, which were not in immigration. They were in other areas. But I remember when I came to the U.S. and the law firm that I worked for after I finished school, they happened to have an immigration division, and I did an internship there. And that's when I discovered that it has features of business, criminal law, international business. And it's also a federal practice, which you can do it in any state. And so because I experienced working so for me, it's like you really have to experience working in the field to decide what you want to do. I never thought I'm going to do immigration. For me, it was more, I'll be like a contracts lawyer, maybe litigation, but once I actually experienced immigration, it became interesting to me. And the fact that it was so flexible in the sense that you can do it in any state, and you can help clients from all over the country. And so when I started my own practice, I figured, well, I do know immigration because I interned and I actually worked in this field in that firm. Then why not try that for myself? And once you start getting the first clients, then you kind of dive into it. So
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You know what? That's a very genuine story and realistic as well because you went through it yourself. And let's not leave out the fact that you also are involved in the tech entrepreneur space. And so that goes hand in hand with how you help people today in your immigration law practice. You not only help, individuals, families, excuse me, but you also help entrepreneurs and founders and people who want to bring businesses over. So can you tell me a little bit about that?
So throughout the years of being an immigration attorney, I've also involved myself with startups as an investor and as an advisor. And obviously, because a lot of these clients that we help, they come here, they need a visa. So either they work for a startup or they are the founders themselves. And so I, got involved with some of these startups as a legal advisor, but then also eventually as an investor and a mentor and somebody in the industry. And of course, to this day, we are helping startups, and we have an affiliate company called PassRight, which essentially is a technology company that does immigration work for startups with supervision of an attorney, but it's not a law firm. It's more kind of like operates as a technology company. And well, for me, it's always been, like I said, a passion to learn about new companies. Maybe if I could get involved, obviously that's something that I try.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why we started the podcast as well, because bringing those founders to the US and talking to them and understanding what their goals are is always something that I enjoy to this day.
Right. You work with both individuals and companies, as we've mentioned, and startups.
Mhm.
And you have also said that you wear many hats, many different roles as a counselor, advocate, strategist. How do you shift between those roles?
So I think obviously in the beginning it was harder because it was just me doing all the stuff, but over time, you build a team, you delegate work. So right now I can focus my time on a lot of the marketing side, on the business relations with clients and new ventures, because I have a team that helps to do the work and is able to do it properly. So through delegation mostly, but in the beginning it was obviously more difficult because couldn't find the balance.
Right, right. Again, I'll say that your story is very genuine and relatable to many people that you help, having immigrated to the United States yourself, having a very global mindset and global vision of what your life looks like, to be able to relate to others in that capacity. So I think with all of that, you are in the perfect position to help many people as you have. And so without naming private details, can you tell us about a case that tested everything in your strategy, mindset, where you had to pivot or rethink your approach?
So I think, I mean, there's quite a few of those, but I can tell you one where we were helping a CEO of a company, a very large company, to move their affiliate and build a company in the United States. And I remember that he got a DUI, unfortunately, and he didn't tell his board about it because they're going through fundraising, and he didn't tell me as well in the beginning, which is a lesson that I always tell clients. You always have to share everything. So what happened is that at some point he was detained by immigration, and at that point his family called me, and we had to almost come up with a way where he was able to still get his green card. He was going through a process of we filed a waiver, and I tried to put together a lot of documents to show his character, which again, in those cases, I usually don't emphasize that. We tell the clients, well, just let time pass and you'll be fine, but we didn't have time. So we have to be very creative using, he did also a lot of good things. He had a charity, and we were able to get a lot of creative evidence into the case to try to get immigration to have discretion, and so he doesn't get banned from getting his visa, because that will be devastating for his company. And so I remember working really long hours and creative ways and reaching out to people and spending hours on the phone convincing people to be able to give us the evidence we need for the waiver. And I was really hoping that this waiver is going to go through, and it went. And so he was able to get his visa and stay here. And his company never knew about what happened and I remember that when I had a meeting with him, and again, my role was just an immigration attorney, just to be able to get him in his visa. And again, we can only do what we can with the tools the clients give us. Mm-hmm. And, it wasn't my fault that he had a DUI. But the point is that he comes to me and he says, listen, my life is literally on the line here. I could lose my company. I could lose the ability to stay in the US. I could lose so many relationships that I built. And it's kind of like, when you look at it this way, you're saying, if I'm able to help this guy, what kind of impact it's going to make? Do you know what I mean? And to this day, we're still connected, and he remembers and he obviously helped me a lot over the years too, making connections for me, helping me get to places I wouldn't be able to get without his connection. Do you know what I mean? So obviously I didn't do it for that, but the challenge of trying to go against what is normal and what is acceptable, and believing in yourself that you can actually do it, and then eventually the goal is reached. And again, remember, immigration law has a lot of discretion within how we are able to practice this area of law, and especially now with the Trump administration, if you're able to build a case to convince the government that your client deserves benefit A and B, sometimes they'll take it. You know what I mean? So never lose hope, I guess.
And things are changing every day, every week, with legal ways to handle immigration, right? So I understand that's a very big part of what you have to do, is adapt quickly as well, and then utilize whatever new information comes out from the administration to pivot however is necessary. So more recently, we had the Trump Gold Card come out. Could you tell us more about that? And for those who don't know, what is it and why is it important?
So right now, within immigration, you've got different ways how people can obtain their green cards, usually through marriage or employment or investment. But there's a new way right now where people can actually invest $1 million for individuals or $2 million for a company. And it's the difference between this and any other investment that we have right now is that it's supposed to be the quickest way an investor can get a green card. Where you're talking about years for traditional path, this could be under a year, maybe even 6 months fast, which is what we think. So essentially what it is that an investor will provide $1 million legal funds. They have to pay a $15,000 admission fee. And essentially they can get a green card in less than a year. I mean, sometimes maybe even in 6 months, which is going to be very appealing to many individuals. And if you're a company, you can pay $2 million and get a green card for your employee really fast. And you can also transfer it between employees. So it kind of opens the door to high net worth individuals who want to move to the United States or want to move their assets without going through the traditional route of creating jobs, getting a sponsorship, building a business. Yeah. It's pure money. We give money, we get a green card in a sense.
Right.
And so, we are, since we do a lot of investor immigration anyway, this is just another tool that we're going to be utilizing to help our clients. And we build a website around it, and we're promoting it for applicants from all over the world who are interested to do that.
Absolutely. It seems very appealing. It sounds way too simple, but I mean that's good for those who want to come here
Can afford it.
and yeah, and you know, I don't know if this is just me, but I feel like $2 million for a company who's established, that's not too much. I
No.
mean, that's pretty
No,
great.
if somebody's playing in the billions, $2 million is not a
Yeah,
lot. I think even for the individuals who are able to afford the $1 million, that
right.
these people, they come from very, very large net worth.
Yeah.
For them, a million is not a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Things have
Yeah,
changed now than 15 years ago.
right. And 6 months to 12 months of getting a green
It's
card.
fast.
Yes. And then from there, what is the process? Because still, I'm sure a lot of these folks want a path to become an actual citizen. So what does that look like? Do you know?
So once they get a green card, 5 years later, they can automatically apply for citizenship. Most of
Okay.
them. Yeah.
All
So
right.
once they get that green card, they'll be able to apply for citizenship 5 years later.
I see. Okay. Well, that's new and exciting. So that's definitely a new door open for a lot of folks who have the means for that.
Right.
Yeah. Based on your experience, what legal foundation should an immigrant founder build first if they want sustainable growth and long-term stability in the United States? What is the first kind of steps that you would recommend for them?
So I think for anyone that is moving here, especially for business-led founders, they need to understand their visa path. So, how are they going to come here first? How are they going to transition from this to something more long-term? How is that going to change and move to a green card and then citizenship? It's very important to plan that, because without the visa path, then you don't really have, you can move forward with anything. You can buy a house, you can build a business. So it's very important to understand the immigration journey. And second of all, understand what is allowed and what is not allowed in terms of the rules in the United States. Can they easily, get a mortgage for a house? Do they have to pay cash for stuff? Like, so just understand the rules in the United States when it comes to their area of expertise, whatever they're planning to do.
Mm-hmm.
But most people don't really understand their visa path, and that's really where the troubles start, because they either overstay or they apply for the wrong paperwork, and then they have to fix it. So I think learning that early on is going to be very essential.
Yes, absolutely. Now, we got the advice with your immigration attorney hat on. I want to have you take that hat off for a second and put your founder and entrepreneur hat on. Now, for founders and entrepreneurs, what is the one piece of advice today that you would give people that most people overlook early on in their journey?
I think for me, it's, something that I usually know for myself is always trust your gut feeling, especially when you come to a foreign land and you're trying to do things, you listen to people. It's important to trust your gut, and kind of like understand what your inner voice is saying. And if it's saying something and you're like trying to convince yourself that it's not, then it's always the first thing that you say to yourself that you should follow, whether it's do business with someone or start that venture or accept help. Always kind of trust your inner voice, because it definitely works. And I have so many stories where people tell me, oh, I should have, listened to myself because I never thought about doing it, but then these people convinced me. I think it's really important because, we're going to get, especially when you come to a different place, you get bombarded with information, with advice, and it's not always easy to know how to navigate that. And I think if you kind of like take some moment to be with yourself and say, you know what, I feel that's the right thing to do, and I'll just go with it, and not second guess yourself after you make that decision.
Right. Trust your instinct, trust yourself, be
Absolutely.
discerning, have discernment as well.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. What gives you the most hope for the future of immigration law and global opportunity? You often, on a daily basis, face challenges and roadblocks and needing to pivot. What gives you the most hope for the future of what you do?
For me, it's pretty much the clients. because a lot of the clients they come, you don't even know who's going to come. You never know who's going to walk through the door. You never know who's going to send you an email. And a lot of these clients who are coming, especially in the last few years, very inspiring. They have a lot of innovative ideas, and they bring a lot of hope and inspiration to anything that we do. Because people come from nothing and they start companies here, or they work small jobs and then they kind of slowly build a life, and they're very always happy with what they have, most of them. And so for me, I would say the clients that we deal with every day provide a lot of hope for especially for me. Yeah.
And I'm sure every day you don't have any one day that's the same, it seems like, with the amount of people that come to you for help and the various cases that require different avenues and paths. So I'm sure it keeps it exciting and on your toes and everything of that nature. All right, we're finally down to the last bit here, Jacob. What is the one last golden nugget that you want people to walk away knowing about you and about your practice moving forward?
I mean, I would say that the about our practice is that we are very international. So a lot of our employees are coming from all over the world, and we have a very holistic approach to how we work with our clients. Very like white glove service. We are very attentive to the clients. So it's a nice mix between technology, because we use a lot of tools, AI, but also the human aspect. It's kind of a mesh. And so I think that's our unique proposition when we work with small companies and big companies and individual clients. Um, and yeah, that's
Wonderful. White glove service. How better can it get? So that's great, Jacob. Where can people find you? I know you have a massive following and
I think the
people,
best way to find me
yeah.
will be on Instagram, which is at San Diego Immigration Lawyer. You can link it in the show notes, and our main website, which is h1b.biz. But I will respond to DMs on Instagram, so they'll be nice to connect with anyone that listens to the show
Yeah.
to say hello on Instagram.
Wonderful, Jacob. And I'll also pitch you for this is that you have a massive YouTube channel as well, and
Yes.
you give free, resources and advice. So for anybody who is getting started on their journey or is, in the trenches and wanting more information, please do check out Jacob Sapochnick's channel on YouTube as well. Thank you so much, Jacob, for your time today. I really, really appreciate working with you.
Of course. Thanks a lot.